After 14 years, Skyrim is no longer a game. It has become a large blank canvas, and mods are your paints with which to make your masterpiece.
Oh my god.
But what does that have to do with D&D? Ever since Baldur's Gate 3 introduced me to the beloved TTRPG, I've been consuming it nonstop. I'm playing D&D twice a week with a group of my closest friends. I'm 7 books deep into the Dritz series, which, if you know me, that's a big deal. I didn't even know I could still read. And I've watched all the D&D movies. Yes, even that one.
I'd have to put a feeble mind spell on myself to want to take you home.
When I'm not playing D&D, I'm thinking about D&D. Now, because people have jobs and personal lives, we can't play quite as often as I'd like. I mean, twice a week is already pretty good. So how might someone like me fill that empty void that exists between sessions? Well, CJ, why don't you just go and play some more Baldur's Gate 3? It is D&D the game. Yeah, well, after 500 plus hours, I've kind of beat that horse to death, okay? There's not much more I can get out of that. And I love Skyrim. Skyrim's an amazing game. So why not take that beautiful blank canvas I mentioned earlier and paint something that at least resembles the game that plagues my every waking thought? Now let's take a stroll through my own personal mod list that I use to turn Skyrim into a proper D&D flavored RPG. Making Skyrim's combat turn-based is probably impossible even with mods, but we can get it very close to real-time D&D combat. To start, I wanted to emulate the many resistances that D&D enemies have. Thankfully, Hackfield also had this idea and made resistances and weaknesses with D&D in mind. For instance, ghost enemies take no damage from any physical weapon, unless it's made of silver. Very flavorful. This mod is an easy plug and play, but as a result, it's fairly surface level. If you want something that's a little more in depth, Know Your Enemy 1 and 2 are harder to install, but offer great alternatives and even let you inspect the enemy to know its vulnerabilities. In an attempt to mimic weapon proficiencies, I went with TDF equipment restrictions. If a wizard finds a big ass two-handed axe, he probably shouldn't be able to use it efficiently without dedicating himself to learning it. Speaking of big ass two-handed axes, say hello to the dismembering framework. It does what it says, and now you can fulfill your most depraved D&D executions. Now, one turn in Dungeons & Dragons lasts about 6 seconds. This is already pretty similar to vanilla Skyrim's difficulty settings, so if you just want to leave it the way it is, that works. However, that's plain turn-based. In real-time combat, I personally prefer things to move quickly, so I went with more challenging, realistic damage, which gives both enemies and the player additional damage. In normal Skyrim, if you see a dragon, you wait for it to land and tank blows till someone dies. With this simple damage overhaul, when I see a dragon, my first thought is, holy shit, I need to find cover, and I need to find it now. When I see a group of bandits, my first thought is, I need to geek that mage or archer before it destroys me from 30 feet away. Admittedly, playing as a rogue is a bit broken as it scales that damage as well, just be forewarned. This mod also helps balance playing with a group of followers, but we'll get there. Obviously, there aren't any mods that add armor class and a chance to hit. But when you miss an attack in D&D, maybe you swung too high, or the enemy lifted their shield, or got off a lucky parry. That's where the mini combat overhauls come into play. Since I'm on VR, I went with pseudo-physical weapon collision and parry VR. Pretty self-explanatory. Now I can parry and create an opening, but if I miss, the consequences can be fatal. That brings us to the last mod for our martial classes. The Dwarven Thrower, Aegis Fang, and the Weapon Bond ability for Eldritch Knight all allow your weapon to be thrown and returned magically. magically. With Weapon Throw VR, you can rip a fat warhammer straight into a giant skull, and it comes right back. It's highly customizable, so you can even turn off the ability for your weapon to auto-return. But no one's surprised, spellcasters are overpowered in D&D. In fact, all those spells you saw earlier are just wizard spells. This one's Meteor Shower, that's Dark Star, and this of course is Time Stop. With the sheer number of spell mods available, I would be surprised if you couldn't find your favorite spell on the Nexus somewhere. Triumvirate has Eldritch Blast and Cloud Kill for Warlocks. Apocalypse has Drop Zone, which is Featherfall, and Control Weather, plus many others. Immersive Illusion spells even has Mind Control and an equivalent of Disguise Self. However, these don't really work in VR. To balance these, I would highly recommend spell rituals, so that higher level spells require and benefit from material components. For the VR users, you can even imitate the somatic components of spellcasting with Mage VR. This is by far my favorite mod in my entire list, and it is just so much fun to get out there and just start waving your hands around and slinging spells. Mage VR also comes with a very immersive lockpicking minigame that is just as difficult and frustrating as real lockpicking. Lastly, we need something besides bandits to use all these cool spells on. Mihail's Monsters has a huge collection of creatures, many of which are inspired by Dungeons & Dragons. We got owlbears, gelatinous cubes, goblins, and even beholders. Although he should have changed the name to Freaky Beholder, because, I mean, look at this guy. Chill. Before we move on, just a quick word from today's sponsor. I absolutely love wearing clothing that displays my favorite video game or anime, but there needs to be a balance between fashion and representation. I don't just want a shirt that says Skyrim across the front. It needs to be demure. That is where Project Orochi comes in. By blending stunning Japanese art with subtle nods to games like Skyrim, For Honor, and the Soulsborne series, they have truly accomplished something unique here. I would wear this on a date with my wife to a nice restaurant. To everyone else, it's just sick-ass Japanese streetwear. But then maybe the waiter notices, and he says, "Hey, that looks like Pontiff Sullivan from Dark Souls 3. And I'd say, "Yeah, I have over 1,000 hours in Dark Souls 3. And then we'd talk all night and become best friends. I'm getting off track. Anyways, it all looks amazing, absolutely. However, if I absolutely had to pick a favorite, I'm going with the Black Talos crew neck. Again, the art is just amazing and it's not too on the nose. It's just perfect. And of course, there's more than just video games. They've even got Berserk, Akira, and Ghost in the Shell inspired apparel. If you'd like to check them out, they offer free shipping in the US. You can even use my code BISCUIT at checkout to get 10% off your order. Again, that's code BISCUIT to get 10% off your order when you go to projectorochi.com or use the link in the description. Thanks again to Project Orochi for sponsoring this video. Now back to the content. Realm of Lorkhan is the perfect place to begin your fantasy adventure. It's a cute little realm in the middle of nowhere with some class perks, starter gear, and portals that spawn you wherever you'd like to start the game. More importantly, it cuts out the entire vanilla intro.
And what's got bro down?
Check your vibes. You're yapping at Ulfric Stormcuck, the true Short King.
In Realm of Lorkhan, you simply spawn in and begin creating your character. The existing races already encompass some of the most iconic races in Dungeons & Dragons, such as the humans, elf variants, and even a few animal races like the Tabaxi. I went ahead and added dwarves and halflings as well, and I gotta tell you, playing as a halfling fighter really shakes things up. If you want to take it a step further, Imperious Races overhauls the base stats of each race and even balances some of the race abilities. Definitely worth checking out. In terms of cosmetic mods, there's just so much variety on the Nexus. Pick whatever you're most comfortable with and go from there. Personally, I really just need something like KS hairs and I'm good to go. As far as slider options go, nothing beats race menu. It is a complete and total overhaul of the character customization screen. After your character is made, it's time to pick a class. I found two options for classes, with my favorite being class limitations. Once you've downloaded the mod, chosen your class, and created your character, you'll notice that some stats are relatively high, while others have been set to 0. That's because class limitations now determines what skills you can and cannot learn by placing a unique skill cap on every single one. For instance, a barbarian would be able to max out his two-handed at 100, but his lockpick will never go above 5. This allows your character to really embrace and roleplay the skills that they are proficient in, instead of becoming a jack of all trades like in vanilla Skyrim. Now, if that doesn't quite do it for you, classic classes and birth signs gives you similar class selection to Oblivion. Just read the book, pick a class, and your stats will be boosted accordingly, and you may even get a perk, sort of like an origin feat. You can still level your other stats without having a cap on it, they'll just be much lower starting out. Both of these class mods work really well with static skill leveling and experience. Experience simply allows you to determine how you obtain XP and how much XP you get from that source. This brings about the age-old debate of milestone leveling or combat-based experience. Do you want to level via completion of quests or from slaying bandits? Personally, I like both, so that's how I set it up, but the mod is highly customizable to your liking, so go crazy. Experience also pairs really well with the aforementioned static skill leveling, which allows you to distribute skill points when you level instead of leveling your skills through the traditional system of just using them over and over. Standing in one place and casting Mage Light 1,000 times is not very immersive. I'd prefer to just pick the skills I want after every level up. Now, if you don't care for the standard perks that already exist within Skyrim, there are tons and tons of really great and fun perk overhauls to choose from. Just pay attention to compatibility. Personally, I really like Ordinator, as I can tell the mod author draws a lot of inspiration for all of their mods from Dungeons & Dragons, like this perform power found in the Speechcraft skill tree. It forces enemies to dance in the middle of combat. This is obviously Otto's irresistible dance, and it's just as OP. Speaking of Bard, there are multiple mods that seamlessly implement the class properly into Skyrim. My favorite being Skyrim's Got Talent. Playing music at first is awful and even results in debuffs.
This can't be happening.
Okay, there's no need to overreact. Get off your chair!
But after learning how to play from the various bards across Skyrim, people will begin to enjoy your music, and you'll even apply some minor buffs. If you choose to go the VR route like I did, Bard VR just dropped on Nexus in beta, which of course allows you to suck at instruments immersively. Last but not least is Skyrim reputation. In D&D, if you do great things, people will begin to recognize you. With Skyrim Reputation, a similar sort of karma system is implemented based on the decisions that you make. It also implements racism, which unfortunately exists in places like both the Forgotten Realms and in Skyrim, so eat your heart out. There is no shortage of both follower and quest mods on the Nexus, but how many of them feel like D&D? Starting with followers, you'll want a diverse cast of traveling companions, all of which can fill a different role. Inigo, Ori, and Lucian are among the most popular because they not only have great voice acting, but also quests that let you learn about who they are and where they come from. If you'd rather use a follower from the vanilla game, Nether's follower framework expands the maximum number of followers, as well as adding additional quality of life and immersion features. As mentioned earlier, realistic damage will cause your friends to die just as quick, but they're happy to take an arrow for you just like your friends in D&D. Now for quests, you'll want something that simulates the feel of an actual campaign, or more realistically, a one-shot. The people who made Beyond Reach did some really impressive work. It's pretty much the size of a DLC, but the Forgotten City is just perfect for a one-shot, or as I like to call it, a short story, because one-shots never actually last only one session. It's a murder mystery adjacent quest filled with interesting characters and brutal backstories. Once I started, I was hooked and even considered turning it into a short story to play with my friends. For all you Far Realms lovers out there, there's even a few Lovecraft-inspired quests as well. If you're a fan of Skyrim, you've probably heard of Mantella, the mod that lets you speak to AI NPCs. But until you try it, you have absolutely no idea how much this changes the roleplay possibilities in Skyrim. To start, you can edit the personalities of existing NPCs to change how they talk and what they might say. That even includes modded NPCs.
Madam, I have sought you out by name. I hear you know a certain, we'll call it, love trick that has been banned by the Imperials thrice over, yet it sends men into the purest forms of ecstasy.
You must be referring to my infamous Nordic steamer, darling.
Oh, is that what it's called?
It's a special service reserved for only my most esteemed clients.
I'll take it.
After speaking to a few townsfolk and even sparing a thief's life because he gave me a super sad backstory, I began to filter the things I was saying as if I was actually in public. My brain was worried that I may say something to offend these characters, and if that's not the true essence of immersion, I don't know what is. 10 out of 10, must try mod. But if you don't like AI or don't want to bother with the setup, Dragonborn Speaks Naturally is an alternative that lets you physically say your dialogue options as if you were speaking to the NPC.
I could help you get the claw back.
You could? I've got some coin coming in from my last shipment. It's yours if you bring my claw back.
Next up is Immersive Speechcraft. While I couldn't find a proper way to implement persuasion type skill checks, this mod does finally make Speechcraft a skill worth investing in. When talking to most NPCs, you'll notice that you have a list of ways that you can interact with them, and your chances of success depend on how high your Speechcraft is. Yet another amazing way to make the bar just so much fun. You might say that Skyrim already has Speechcraft skill checks, and it does, but dear God, do they suck. For all you Paladin and Cleric mains out there, you can try Wintersun, Fates of Skyrim. This allows you to dedicate yourself to one of Skyrim's many gods, which in turn gives you different buffs and powers depending on your devotion. But disobeying their tenets will get you disowned faster than you can say, "It's what my character would do." In D&D, when your party has filled their pockets with a dragon's hoard and returned to town, what's the first thing you do? You go shopping, probably for way too long. Honed Metal allows you to spend that gold at a blacksmith for that dagger you've been excited for, or of course at the local court wizard to enchant said dagger. Just don't forget to pick up your order when it's done. Moving on to survival, Navigate VR gives players their own compass and allows you to buy maps from vendors. With this, you can just turn off your HUD and pray that you have proficiency with cartography tools in real life. Now that you're properly lost in the wilderness, you'll need to make camp with your friends. Campfire implements an entire camping system, complete with wood chopping, fire starting, and deployable tents. You have a lot of different tent options to choose from, just make sure you pick somewhere free of enemies. What's that? You're also hungry, thirsty, and tired? You must have downloaded Vitality Mode. This mod is the perfect balance of realism while not being overbearing. Just make sure to grab some food and water before you leave on your adventure. Last but certainly not least is Night Eye Overhaul. This is the perfect mod for implementing dark vision into your playthrough. I use ELFX, and it makes my dungeons much darker, as they should be. As a result, I could end up walking past some much needed loot. But if I grab a potion of Night Eye, or even a ring of Night Eye, I'll be seeing like a dark elf in no time. And that's pretty much my mod list. I'm sure I missed a few things, so be sure to let me know down in the comments. I also wanted to say, I'm no professional at this, okay? It took me over 3 weeks to put this list together and get it functional. And as you can probably tell by the low frame rates in the footage, it's still not optimal. So just know that if you decide to try this, it'll be a little frustrating and overwhelming at first, but it is so worth it in the end. And of course, always endorse the mods that you use. The modding community is largely doing this for free on their own time. They deserve all the accolades for their hard work. A huge shout out to the members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Members get access to perks like early ad-free access to regular uploads and a members badge. I'll see you all in the next one. Later.